We begin with some breaking news coming to CNN, and U.S. Secretary of State Kerry has just announced that the U.S. has reached a final agreement on language of bilateral security agreement with Afghanistan.
I'm pleased to say that in a series of conversations with President Karzai in the course of this morning, even interrupting some of our conversations, that we reached an agreement as to the final language of the bilateral security agreement that will be placed before the Loya Jirga tomorrow.
World Affairs reporter Elise Labbott joins us now from the State Department in Washington with the latest. For people who haven't been following the ins and outs of this, it won't be entirely clear what this means, but it is pretty significant, right?
It's very significant, Max. The U.S. really wanted to sew up this agreement before Afghan election campaign starts. The election will be taking place in April, and they really wanted to sign this agreement that will basically leave a certain amount of U.S. troops in Afghanistan after international troops leave in 2014 for the mission of training, assisting, equipping, and advising them. We're talking about maybe somewhere between maybe a couple thousand NATO troops would remain as well. And there have been several sticking points over these negotiations, which have taken place over the last many months, particularly about whether the U.S. would be able to conduct raids in Afghan homes. That's been a real sore point for the Afghans. And it seems that with this letter of assurances that we've been talking about, that the U.S. would provide to Afghanistan, they would be able to do that under certain circumstances.
I'm also reading that he was asked questions about an apology, Kerry, to Afghanistan. What would the apology be for if he was going to be giving it?
Well, this goes back to this letter. President Karzai, this is one issue that's been really hard for him and his political base, these Afghan raids, because there have been a lot of civilian casualties during them. And so what he was looking for was some kind of letter of assurances that would not only spell out under what conditions U.S. troops might be able to take these raids, but apologize for some of the past quote-unquote mistakes that the U.S. Has taken in the past. And so there was all this talk about whether this is an apology for U.S. actions in Afghanistan during the war, and Secretary